Today is April 16th, 2025, and I'm just documenting how everything came to be, with the theft of our property deed documents and our other documents, and um, the theft of many boxes and everything. Now, when it comes to the property deed documents, I want to show you, because the reason I'm recording all of this and putting a lot of attention into the theft of what SUSSANA ILJAZI made my father Tasim Lazri do. What happens here is this, okay? My dad is having major medical issues right now, and I know most likely the reason has to do with what SUSSANA ILJAZI forced my dad to do the theft of documents. And I'm going to show you exactly how he did it. He keeps this ladder the way it's positioned right here. He keeps it here all the time like this, ever since he decided, ever since she started pushing him to do the theft of documents. He, this chair used to be over here. He pushed the chair aside, and then he always has the ladder here. What he does is he goes up here. This opens up. So that whole framing that you see from this point all the way to, that whole framing opens up, and then a person is able to go up there to do work and things like that. So it's an attic. My dad goes up, he crawls all the way over towards the front of the house where the safe is, and then I'll show you exactly what he did and what had happened. It's very important to document this because people need to be aware that SUSSANA ILJAZI had my dad steal a lot of documents. Okay, so if you come in here, you'll see what had happened. Here's the safe right there. And what ended up happening was my dad, there was a time where he asked my mom to open the door because he wanted, to see something. And then he wanted to make sure that that was a safe because, as you can see, there's a few other things going on here. Once he located that that was the safe, immediately he looked up at the ceiling, which I thought was strange, but I didn't think much of it at the time. And then what he immediately does is he takes this chair right here and he positions it. He moves it forward, so basically moving it to position it to where the drop down from the ceiling, drops down, so that way, he can have access, to that safe. So what ended up happening is, as you can see, all the damage that he did, and it's right there by the window area. So we believe this happened the night of the fires, because that's when I had heard drilling in the middle of the night, some type of cutting through structures. And, we have video from June 3rd, 2022, when my dad violently had pushed my mom, from this room. And this was not like this. It was a fully nice looking ceiling. So something had happened during the Los Angeles fires, which I documented in another video, where, SUSSANA ILJAZI was just demanding to get to those documents. She had no concern for my dad's health when she asked my dad to go and steal the documents. So he cut through all that structure. Now, we don't know, this is an old house. We don't know what this house was made of. We don't know if there was any asbestos in these ceilings and walls. We have no idea. All I know is that whatever had happened went into his lungs, because there's no way that you can avoid that. You need to be a professional utility worker in order to do all this. But SUSSANA ILJAZI took advantage of an elderly man. She told him to remove and to steal the documents from this safe, which was there to protect my elderly parents and me for our future, for the home, to protect the home and to protect my future inheritance. And so SUSSANA ILJAZI did some trickster moves. She had no concern for the health of an elderly man. She tells him to go and steal these documents, and I know that he's behind it. I don't know if he had helped or not. Yeah, I know he had some type of help that night because a lot of things were removed. So obviously he didn't remove it. So he helped them to remove it into another vehicle or another house in order to, because his truck did not move at that point. So basically, I seen these two white boards that you see right here. My dad went, either he went shopping or he found them in the garage. I believe he may have went shopping because my parents were constantly going to like Home Depot and different places like that, trying to find certain items. And I seen these two white boards. They were right kind of hidden by the front door, so that I couldn't see it, but I happened to see it before these got installed. I did notice like a very strange, like construction smell at one point earlier in the year. I did notice that, but I didn't know what that was about. I had no idea. He also had some type of worker working here at one point, so I don't know if he made it easier for him by doing some structure. I don't know, but all I know is that I don't think he could have gotten away with it that time because we were all up at that time. So I believe it was the night of the fires because it was loud anyway. I believe most likely, that's what happened. Because when I had mentioned this to my dad, I told my dad, I said, Dad, something is seriously wrong. Somebody stole documents from our safe because there's no other explanation why these two, drop down, holes in the ceiling, would have happened, except for if, somebody had nefarious plans and tried to do something nefarious. So my dad didn't even flinch. And my dad is the kind of person that would go irate if he had heard that somebody had, God forbid, broke into our home and things like that. He did not even flinch. That's why I know he's behind it as well. And I know he was pushed by SUSSANA ILJAZI, the corrupt, wicked FBI agent, because she's been trying to steal from my parents their property deed documents and assets for a very long time. She has been, even trying to select her particular type of husbands, like arranged marriage husbands for me, thinking that, she can control the man so then she'll be able to control the assets. She was doing a lot of wicked things. And then she even tried to get my dad around 2002, 2003 timeframe with her cousin Meti Thrapi from Dibra, Macedonia. They tried to get another woman, an arranged marriage woman for my dad that he had agreed to. But then when the lady started asking for property deed documents, she wanted the deed of the house. That's when he knew it was a scam. So he stopped talking to SUSSANA ILJAZI for over 10 years. Even her sister died, everything. He didn't want nothing to do with her. He kept calling her his enemy because he realized her scam. That was before she was with the FBI. So what ended up happening was she kept stalking us and calling and leaving voicemails, but my dad would never answer her calls. And so, because he thought she was a crook for what she did with that Dibra, Macedonia lady. So what ended up happening is SUSSANA ILJAZI stalked my mom's distant relative sister, our distant relatives because they live in New Jersey. Sister Sophia Fisca. And so my dad told me when that had happened, he said, it's up to you, Donna. He's like, I don't want to deal with her. She's my enemy. Therefore, she's your enemy too. So he's like, I recommend don't talk to her. But it's up to you. So I have a forgiving heart. I had no idea she had premeditated plans against me and my family to, do harm and damage to us. I had no idea. But I reached out to her with a forgiving heart. And it turned out my dad was right. Everything that he had told me about her ended up being accurate. She is our enemy. Obviously, if she's telling an elderly man to break into, the top part ceiling and go down, to where he drops to this chair. And I did hear like a big thump at one point too in that night, which I thought was strange too. But like I said, I didn't know what was going on. It was a storm. So I didn't know if it was like utility workers or what's going on. But she put his health in jeopardy by him breathing in all those things that come from construction styled work as an elderly man, and now he's having medical issues. So we don't know if it's my mom thinks it could be the Berlinta too, that maybe he has too much for Linta because she read that, that creates a moon face type of thing, because that's, some of his symptoms. He has like a moon face, swollen face. And so, but we don't know if it's that or his cigarette smoking, that it's since he was 14 years old, he's been a heavy smoker, like 2 or 3 packs a day. So, he's extremely, heavy smoker. And then another thing is SUSSANA ILJAZI back last year was telling him to do push-ups in July 2024. And immediately after that, she knew he is an elderly man, and that, he was a heavy smoker and everything. And that push-ups would be dangerous for him because there's like a direct line to the heart when you do push-ups. And so she, she told him to do that. And immediately thereafter, he had a heart attack. So, SUSSANA ILJAZI, she's a corrupt FBI agent. She's doing a lot of damage to our family. I'm trying to document this because, this is criminal behavior. What SUSSANA ILJAZI is doing is criminal behavior. She's getting theft of documents. She's telling an elderly man, heavy smoker, to go up on the ceiling, the attic, drop down into, how dangerous is that? If he would have fallen incorrectly, drop down to this chair. And like I said, I saw my dad with his own eyes. He looked at the safe, immediately looked up at the ceiling, and then positioned the chair. Like it was all 1, 2, 3. Like he had a plan. And the plan came from wicked, corrupt FBI agent SUSSANA ILJAZI. And it's really wrong. And I'm documenting it because I'm really concerned for my father's health with what SUSSANA ILJAZI is making my father do. And his name is Tasim Lazri. And I'm really, worried about all this. And I'm worried about me and my mom too, because God only knows if there was asbestos or something or other type of, it didn't have to just be asbestos, it could be any kind of dangerous particles that had come out from here. It's wrong. So, we could be in danger too, including the dog. And, so what SUSSANA ILJAZI did to our family is criminal. And, she needs to be fully investigated, and it's very wrong. And I'm just documenting this for our protection, so that way the full truth and full scope of the matter can be known, and that the whole world will know that how greedy, corrupt FBI agent SUSSANA ILJAZI is. That she would tell an elderly man to go up on a ceiling and cut through structures and then drop down and then go to the safe to steal documents. Absolutely criminal of SUSSANA ILJAZI, corrupt FBI agent. But God is great, and God is He rules over all, and He will prevent SUSSANA ILJAZI from all her wicked schemes and evil plans. God will overcome all the manipulations and schemes of SUSSANA ILJAZI because she's wrong. She is absolutely wrong. She's a shame to the FBI. She dishonors the badge. SUSSANA ILJAZI, corrupt FBI agent, dishonors the badge, and she needs to be stopped. And thanks to President Donald J. Trump and all the wonderful people that he put in office and in his administration and heading different agencies, I believe there will be justice and everything will be fine for my elderly parents and me, because we suffered enough due to corrupt FBI agent SUSSANA ILJAZI. But God rules over all. Baruch atah Adonai.